Hey guys, this is Ms. Bo here down at SkyART, the wonderful, wonderful SkyART where we miss all of our kids. Can't wait to get you back. But today, we're gonna show you how to make masks. That's right, you need protective masks. If you're gonna go outside, make sure that you stay 6 feet away from people and you protect yourself. Some of the tools, the most important tools that we're gonna need is a sewing machine, okay? Make sure that you have one of those. And also to my left, we have a serger. This serger makes all of your pieces at the end very nice and polished. We want to make sure that we have very serged nice ends. So that's basically what it does. On top of that, we're gonna need elastic because you need to hook elastic or some form of stretching application around your ears. On the table, you see that I have a few different masks here with different lengths, different widths of elastic, but nonetheless, it is something very, very stretchable. In addition, pins to make sure that our pieces that we create are pinned together. For example, here on the table are several pattern pieces with pins in it. This is what we need so that when we're sewing, nothing comes apart. My trick that I like to use is bias tape, which makes my ends very, very, very nice and flush to the face. As you can see here on all of my samples of my particular design mask, they feature this bias tape, which is a good idea if you don't want to kind of fold it in. It helps to also reinforce the elastic because there's this little layer that is made of cotton and also shows you, I'm sorry, not show you, but like I said, it helps you to reinforce that area where it gets smooth on the face. So we're gonna get started, and after you are done, I guarantee you're gonna be making masks for your whole family. So it's best that you listen up closely and let's get it going. All right, so I'm going to start with a very simple mask where there's just the front and the back. Again, there's a lining piece and also my self fabric. What I like to do is to trace out my pattern with a pencil or with a marker. Make sure that you're tracing on the outside, cutting on the outside so that those little markings won't show up on your mask, especially if it's a light color. So we're gonna take this here. Two pieces are together, left and right side. Take those pins out, just like so. Now me, I'm slightly a professional, so do what I say, not what I do, okay? Fold this inside to each other, making sure that our silky smooth edge is showing, they're facing each other. I'm just going to pin it so that they don't move. And I'm just gonna follow along the curve of my mask. Please don't let anything I do intimidate you. Again, I have been sewing a while and I'm not perfect still, so there will be hiccups. Just go back behind it, fix yourself, you'll be okay. Make sure that you back stitch. That's to lock the stitch in so that it does not move. I have my mask on right now, but it's under my chin. You won't be able to hear me if I keep it over my face. Again, these are some of the things that we are doing down here at SkyART, just making sure that we stay safe, that we stay healthy. So again, like I said, this is your core. I'm gonna take my mask off just so you guys could get a very good gist. So, looking here, this is the core of what we created. If you can see, I have just a little bit of a dip here. This allows it to go over our nose. After that, we're gonna repeat this process. Very, very simple, guys. Very, very simple with our interfacing piece, okay? This again is your filter. You can find this at your local kind of Walmarts, fabric stores. Wherever supplies are sold, you can find this. Doesn't matter if it's thin, doesn't matter if it's thick, just as long as you have some type of filter inside, okay? repeat the steps at the serger, but for time's sake, we're just going to pretend like we serged this, okay? And your serge edge will and should look something similar to that. Pretend that it's on here, and repeat the same steps one more time with the lining piece. Taking my pins out. Make sure that when you pin, you're pinning perpendicular to the sewing line so that the needle could go over the pin, not run into it, okay? So, I have my 3 pieces as I stated before. Lining, interfacing, and self fabric, okay? Now, what I like to do is stack these on top of each other because sometimes I'm mass producing and all of my pieces are looking the same until I have to customize it for a customer. So I like to just put my pieces on top of each other. And if your pieces are all cut the same way, you won't have to worry about this. But I'm gonna lay my pieces on top. And then I'm going to go ahead and just cut, ooh. Before I cut, let's always pin. Pin, 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 so that your mask does not move and it's not all wobbly on your face. And you look a little touched. We don't want that. So I'm going to pin this down in some very crucial areas where I don't want it to move. And then I'm going to just cut out that access that we don't need. The reason I'm doing this is because we're going to lay all of these pieces together and they must match as best as possible. Again, we're not perfect, but we're practicing. All right, so now I should have most of my pieces similar. If not, we're gonna work on it. At SkyART, we encourage our kids to continue to work on whatever it is that they're doing, even if they don't so much agree with it, because there is beauty in our mistakes, am I right? Okay, so I'm going ahead and I'm pinning all of my seams together. All of your pieces should have seams in them. If it doesn't, you didn't sew. You didn't sew at all. So, pinning my seams together at the top and at the bottom. So that's that. Interfacing or your filter, your self fabric, and then finally your lining. Your lining is going to go not on the back, but right on top of your piece here, okay? So what that means is that we're going to have our seams facing each other, seam to seam, okay? We don't want any of that extra dirtiness to be facing, that needs to be facing us, not the other way around. So seam to seam, right sides to right side. Again, I didn't take this one to the serger this time. I just wanted to let you know that serging is a good idea so we can make sure that our pieces are very nice and tight and they stay together. Seam to seam. What I like to do also is to alternate the seam allowance. So if you have seam allowance on 3 pieces, make sure that they alternate, that they aren't all going the same way, because it makes it very, very bulky, okay? Piece this, and now here's the fun part. Now we have all 3 of our pieces together. The fun part is now making sure that they line up. Some may be longer than the other, as you can see, that's okay. We will even it out later. So I'm just gonna go ahead and smooth over what I've created so far. Okay, so now I have my mask all pinned together. It doesn't look like anything, but that's okay. All right, so from here, we're going to take this back to the sewing machine. Sew all the way to edge, edge to edge, and we're gonna leave this open so that we can flip it over. Once we flip it over, it'll look something like this, but just a solid color. All right, so bam, boom, kabing. Here we go, machine's back on. Bring this over here. Sewn my top. I sewn my top. I sewn my bottom. You see that very quickly. And now what we do from here, I'm going to take it to the serger and just clean up those little raw edges like I told you about. Either you can cut them off or you can serge them off. Alrighty then. All of my edges, cut all of that excess fabric off, and you're like, oh my goodness, Miss Bo, what's going on? This is not the same size that it needs to be, and I don't like it. Don't worry, kids, I got you. So like I said before, we're going to flip inside out. There's a pin. Get out of there, sucker. All right. Look at the magic, guys. Watch the magic. After we flipped inside out, we now have a front. We now have a back. And in the middle of that is, of course, the one thing that we all definitely need all the time is that filter in between. So from here, still doesn't look like nothing, Make sure that you pin. Making sure that we're folding over. So basically what I'm doing is folding over my lining because I don't want that to show. We're gonna top stitch this lining and then we're gonna add the bias tape, okay? This is what we have. Now we have a now formed mask that you could be proud of. I'm a little proud myself. All of that extra excess in the middle, on the side, we're gonna get rid of, but first, let's do a nice top stitch. I better stitch very nicely because this is green and this thread is black. So let's hit it. So remember I was telling you about those little edges that didn't quite line up? It's okay, do not panic. Miss Bo will help you. So turn that sucker inside out so that you see the lining part and match up what you can. If it doesn't match up, make sure you turn it where you have that seam, right where that seam is. Flip it inside out and then we're going to just line up our mask, cut off the excess. So we don't need that little part there. We don't need that. We don't need it at all. Cut it off so it's nice and even. Flip it back inside out and now you have a mask. We're not done yet, okay? From here, to give it a nice finish, to make sure that your sides are laying down really nice, what my technique is and what I like to do is to use bias tape on my sides. Now this is one of my masks here, and the bias tape helps it to lay really nice on the face. Again, we talked about bias tape here at SkyART. All of these fabric notions is one thing that my kids have to know. You can't say, oh, just pass me that little black piece. Nope. We are calling these names the technical names that they are. So with the bias tape, we're going to fold it over our edge, just like that, so that we have a clean edge. Oh, I'm gonna love this mess. I'm never taking it off. Okay. Sewing our bias tape down to clean our edge up. So here we go, guys. We now have officially a mask, but it won't stay on because we're missing elastic. Elastic around this bottle is a very, very, very smart idea because once you get it, they cut off 50 yards. Well, maybe that's just me. They cut off 50 yards of elastic for me, and it's just a big bag of elastic. It gets raveled. It's like a everlasting foam cord that won't end. So take you some plastic bottles, you know, that you drink out of instead of throwing them away. Take your elastic and wrap it around there. As a matter of fact, take a pin. I got a pin in there. Put a little pin in there. Put the pin in there, start to wrap it, and put a pin at the other end, and that'll keep your elastic together, okay? All right, so now we have our mask. Let's move on. Let's move on, people. Measure your ear. People wonder, well, how much elastic would I need, Ms. Bo? I'm not sure. What I could tell you is that the thinner the elastic is, the more give it will have. You could do a, you know, a standard kind of sizing and just put that joker around your ear a little bit and say, maybe that's enough. Or you could customize it to whoever you have. That's a lot of work, guys. Customizing to all your customers' ear sizes, you're gonna go crazy. All right, so now our last process, our last part of the show is attaching our elastic, okay? Elastic, elastic, elastic. Make sure that you are triple back stitching this elastic down because you're making a mask that at this time is gonna be heavily used. And you guys are now, I don't need that. Mask makers. Okay, so questions, comments, or concerns, you can feel free to visit us at SkyART NFP, or you can visit me. Hey, I like this mask.